Okay, so I've been fielding a number of questions about my carburetor swap, and I feel it's probably a good idea just to do a more in-depth video than the sort of showing off cursing video I did before. So this is your basic Edelbrock 1406 carburetor. You can get it at the auto parts house, or these are ubiquitous. You can get them just about anywhere. I got mine from a rebuilder off eBay, about $200. If you want a new one, it's probably about $350, $400, whatever. Now, most importantly, I got the Edelbrock 1487 Calibration Kit. It's got the jets and metering rods and everything, and springs, most importantly, everything you need, because this one was not adjusted for fuel economy. I put the I know it was a .095 jets in there, basically the smallest jets and the fattest metering rods and the heaviest springs, because this engine pulls quite a bit of vacuum, and that will make a huge difference on fuel economy. You'll get at least as good a fuel economy as you would with TBI, if not better. Now, the choke, basically stock. I got it set to 1 fat. See, 1 after this mark here, no big deal. Now, the intake is just a standard Edelbrock square bore carburetor intake. I believe it's a 2101, about $150 or so. Now, on TBI motors, most everything that will slap on a carbureted motor will slap on a TBI motor, with the exception of these 2 center intake bolts. See here, I ended up slotting the intake bolt holes because the center 2 intake bolt holes on each side are at a 28-degree angle on TBI heads, and on carbureted heads they're 45 degrees, just like the rest of the bolts. I'm pretty certain GM did that just to keep people from putting carburetors on their TBI trucks and causing havoc with the computer and whatever. I'm pretty sure that's why GM did that. Yeah, it's not too hard to do. What I did, I just ground some larger nuts down to a, 18-degree angle, 17-degree angle, whatever. You can buy a kit that just has 4 aluminum wedges and 4 bolts, but it's like, my God, it's stupidly expensive. It's like $175 for some reason. I think Y-End makes it. Yeah, I did not bother with that, obviously. Now, this fuel pressure regulator, notice I mounted it on the firewall. It's not, I just had it here for testing purposes in the last video. This is a Holley 12-887 bypass regulator. It has a return line down here, inlet and an outlet. It's very, very important that you get one with a return line. Do not get what's called a deadhead regulator. Those are just restrictors. You'll burn out your fuel pump in a big old hurry. Now, this one is set to 5 psi. Anywhere 5, 6 psi, you're good. I mean, because these the stock fuel pumps in these run about 14 psi, so you'll blow right through the needle and seat on these and flood your shit out, in a big hurry. Now, this back here is just a standard stock GM Hei Distributor from, say, you can go to the parts house and say, hey, give me a distributor for a 84 Chevy C10. That's what you'll get right there. Notice I don't have the vacuum advance hooked up on this one. I think this distributor is a little wonky. I can't quite get the timing set. I've got an Accel unit ready to put in, I just haven't got it put in. That's what I'm going to do later on. But yeah, just any old stock GM Hei distributor. That's just a extra inline fuel filter I put in for my own peace of mind. It's like $10 in the auto parts house. Now this here is my throttle position sensor bracket that I fabricated. Ugly as sin, but it works. I just made that up from some scrap metal and bolted it to the intake. Now, if you're running an automatic transmission, you have to have a throttle position sensor, or nothing is going to work right. So yeah, you can get like a universal mounting kit. Again, it's a couple of $100, and you got to fiddle with it and calibrate it. Now you have to calibrate your throttle position sensor to where it's about 0.5 volt at idle, at 0 throttle, and then going up to 3.5 to 5 volts, whatever, at open throttle. You know, you probably have to fiddle with that a little bit to find out whatever your transmission is happy with. But yeah, you have to have that. Now this, I'm not too worried about the looks of it as much as I am the function. Surprisingly, this coat hanger wire keeps the calibration just perfectly. I guess because, you know, real good and stiff. You know, it's not going to go anywhere. And it's only got those 2 pivot points. And again, this is temporary. To anyone who's watched my earlier videos, I do intend to put a manual transmission in here. So this is going to go away at some point. You know, so I wasn't really too keen on spending $200 on a, you know, TPS mounting kit just for looks. Okay, anyway, the other thing, see, there's a spare on the tech lead that goes to the distributor. GM TBI vehicles have a second tech lead just coming out of the harness there. You might have to dig in the conduit for it, but it's right there. This goes to the one of the connectors coming off your ignition module. It goes to the purple and white wire. You have to have this, otherwise your transmission will not shift properly either. So you have to have the TPS, this, and a vehicle speed sensor. That's what your you've already got that. That's what the 3 things the computer relies on for the transmission to shift. So yeah, you have to have all 3 of those. That's a pretty simple, just run the 1 wire, whatever. What else? Oh yeah, for the choke. See, this looks a little ugly, but I didn't want to go hecking up on the original wiring harness too much. So if I ever decide to go back to the original, I can. It'll be a lot easier. For the choke, I think this is wired to the EGR vacuum solenoid that used to be right here. I got a constant 12 volts ignition hot out of that, so that was just a convenient place to wire up the electric choke. I'm going to pretty all this stuff up later. I've already got started on some of it, as you can see. So don't worry about the mess. But, yeah, I mean, it's really not all that complicated. It's just a little fabrication work, you know, some grinding and whatever. But for the most part, it's a question, except for the intake bolt holes and the throttle position sensor, a couple of wires there. You know, it's mostly a question of taking the old parts off, putting the new parts on. You know, that's it. But if anyone has any questions, you know, I'd be real glad to hear them. You know, I'm glad to help. If you need part numbers or whatever, I'll try and list them. You know, just let me know. Thanks for watching.